Welcome back to Bite Size Sports. It is Tuesday night, so that means it's necessary roughness time to talk little NFL, plant our flags, make our predictions for the upcoming 2024 season. And I am here actually doing backup vocals the rest of the show to our wonderful host, Johnny Football. Let me get the chairs in the right order. John, how you doing, sir?
Good, man. This is a big one. A lot riding on this. We've got NFL season predictions. We're talking division winners, the rest of the playoff teams, Super Bowl matchup, surprise teams, and the whole nine. So light us up in the comments over these predictions. Let us know what you're thinking. Drop a like, as many comments as you can, and if you're not subscribed already, hit that button. We are, I think last time I checked, we're like 30 away from 700. And we'd love to get there by the end of the season if we could. First and foremost, though, Kev, just like we do every episode of this show, we're going to start at the top with just a little bit of a news roundup. Nothing crazy. Ahead of the season here, and there will be some things I'm sure I miss as far as injuries, things like that. But a couple, 25 away according to Lee. Thanks for checking. Also, thanks for being here, Lee. Good to see you. So Trent Williams is planning to re-sign in San Francisco. He's back at practice along with Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey. A lot of 49ers news, actually, now that I think about it. The Niners also brought in Terrace Marshall, the former LSU receiver, who was just cut by the Panthers. And that might have something to do with the fact that 31st overall pick Ricky Pearsall was just released from the hospital, nursing that bullet wound to the chest. Did you see that story as it broke, Kev?
I did. I might not know all of the details, but I know it was a robbery gone wrong, and he took one. I think did he defend himself? I don't actually know all the details, John. I know that the guy got shot and is lucky to be alive. And few things on this continent can make you more of a badass than just being in the NFL and going across the middle and getting hit by free safeties and linebackers. But taking a bullet is one of those things. So I can only imagine his stock will rise as Many Men is played very often in what is, I'm sure, no longer called Candlestick Park. But you know what I mean? Wherever it is.
Thinking it that way. Yeah, it's only overshadowed by Paul Pierce's stabbing survival. But yeah, it was something. Yeah, it was like a 17-year-old kid tried to rob him at gunpoint. Apparently, it wasn't even like a targeted thing to where he knew it was an NFL player. It was just a robbery, and yeah, stood his ground. It sounds like they both ended up going to the hospital. So I don't know if he maybe got a hold of the gun at one point or another. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. He was released from the hospital and is on the mend, has been stable throughout. Was like walking into the hospital, I think, that day. A little Reagan in 81 action. And
little gangs in New York. It's just a flash.
Yeah. But that was one of the wilder stories that I think took place like 2 days after we last recorded. So, but he is just fine. A couple other random things. James will appreciate the mention of this one. The Chargers just traded for, Jeff says 5 shots were fired.
Wow. Struggled over the gun. 5 shots were fired. What a miracle to be not only surviving that, but he said he's going to be good to go, going to be back out there. That's, dude, I bet be hard for me to be going out again for a while if I were in his shoes. Little
Yeah, and
apples to oranges. I got T-boned by a semi truck probably like 12 years ago on the highway, and took about 3 years for me to drive next to one on the highway without, puckering up a little bit. So I imagine
yeah,
he's going to do a lot of double takes in the convenience store going forward. Like, wait, what? Hang on, you coming after
no,
me?
I feel that way just having watched Final Destination, so I hear you.
Oh, you get behind those.
Um,
You're like, hell no, not today, brother.
logger truck, yeah. Oh man, but yeah, sounds like they both made it out, and obviously not a great thing to do to rob someone at gunpoint, but he was 17, so hopefully that is something he can bounce back from as well. Excellent comment, Nate. Thanks for being here, brother.
I agree with half of those statements.
Yeah. And I don't know if James is in the chat, but we got a little Titans news as well. Chargers traded for a sixth-round pick for Elijah Molden, which I don't know. I found a little interesting because Asante Samuel Jr. is a pretty slot exclusive corner, ideally. Molden also sort of a nickel type. So maybe that's just kind of to add some depth there, but I'm not sure how much they want to play either of them on the outside. So I'll be curious to see how that falls because Elijah Molden has had a lot of good reps in the slot, and projected to be a pretty good corner. Hasn't quite worked out in Tennessee. They've turned over a lot of that secondary. So
Right.
But that was an interesting one. A couple extensions. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk, 4 years, 120. So that was a big one. Big letdown for a couple of fan bases that thought they might be trading for him. Washington, Pittsburgh, a couple
Twitter
others in the
accounts
mix.
exposed as frauds. As this happens every year. This time of year, we get a few of them that finally get outed as the liars that they are.
Yeah, my sources say the Ayuk deal is as good as done.
Yeah, he's in Pittsburgh right now, buying a
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. Speaking of Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson was named a captain for this season, so firmly in the starting job. I thought that was a little bit interesting just to ride with the team. I think a pretty from a personality standpoint, I think you'll hear kind of both extremes from those who have played with him or those who observe him. But doing something right in Pittsburgh and Justin Fields is terrible. So I think that's the right decision. Staying in Pittsburgh, 35-year-old Cam Hayward has just agreed to a 3-year, $45 million extension with the team.
Good for
Also
you.
named a captain, and that will secure him through his age 38 season.
Wow.
Didn't look as nasty since he came back from that injury. So obviously a legend of the organization, has been a mainstay there, done a lot of great things for them, but I don't know, that might have been a little rich for the age range, especially with the recent injury and the demand of that position. But I mean, we've seen Calais Campbell continue to dominate. Maybe he's just one of those D linemen that won't die. So hopefully he kind of gets back to form, and that is not an albatross by 2026.
3 years, man. That normally I'm not one to think that 3 years is a long deal, but when you get to this point in someone's career, it feels like that should just be a year by year basis. Because as you mentioned, you're hoping he doesn't just fall off of a productive cliff, but the odds are not in your favor. Okay, so bold strategy, Cotton. That's what I'll say. And to touch up on the quarterback news while we're still talking about Pittsburgh, I've got maybe 5 or 6 more weeks before I finally have to pull the ripcord on any of my Justin Fields truther isms. I've been saying all off season, he's out of Chicago. He's with a winning organization. He'll learn what there is left to learn from Russell Wilson, which I'm sure is a lot by talking to him. Maybe more of a do as I say, not as I do situation. But what I'm hearing ain't great. And I'm starting to think perhaps I was wrong about old Justin Fields, and it's going to be another year where the Steelers win 9 games despite averaging 172 yards of total offense.
Yeah, Russ is just going to be like, listen, kid, throw over the middle. I know I don't, but you got to hit the dig when you get in there.
Whatever you do, don't
I don't know.
roll to your left and throw off your back foot. Just never make sure you never do that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I could see like one of those goofy, like, either Russ goes down or gets benched around mid-season, and all of a sudden there's another like flash in the pan from Fields, just with like the comes in, hasn't been game planned for, gives him a little spark, that kind of thing. But I just don't think I don't think he's going to be consistently decent. This is a pretty good one from Jeff. DJ Ugalele. The Niners had a lot of rollover.
So it's also by making tweets like that guy could overthrow governments or something. We're talking about DJ. Oh, I'm so sorry. Poor kid. How did the 49ers clear $16 million cap space after their signings this week?
I don't know. I haven't even seen the Spotrac numbers on Ayuk's deal, so I'm not sure how it's spread out. I know they had a lot of rollover from last year. They actually entered today, I think, with like 50 mil in cap space. Or maybe it was they entered last week, something like that. They had 50 mil in cap space very recently.
You can do that when your quarterback makes the same amount as a grocery bag.
900K or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, where it's the old Seattle Seahawks formula, right? Pay everyone else but Russ, and let's win while we're on Russ's rookie contract.
Yeah, and then no more O-line.
Yeah, and then we're cooked.
But yeah, I don't know, some sort of black magic over there. I'll have to dig into that, Lee. But I do know they had some rollover, so that's part of it. And we've got two. Only other thing that I think was a decent deal was, and this will come in when we talk division winners. Spoiler, but the New York Jets have secured an extension for nickel corner Michael Carter II. 3 years, 30 mil, up to 33 million. And it's a pretty ridiculous cornerback trio now over there that's secured for the long term. And I'm a huge fan of that defense. I'm glad they were able to keep him around. He's been really, really solid on his rookie deal. So it seemed like it might have been one of those, just cap casualty, dump him off trades. And he definitely would have had some suitors. But Jets maintain a really, really solid nickel corner. And they have fewer and fewer holes on that roster by the day, it seems like.
Yeah, that's the kind of defense Trent Dilfer could win a Super Bowl with.
Yes. They're 7-10 with Zach Wilson most of the season. So, I think they'll cobble something together. But that's it for the news section. Now we can get to what's really going to be fun. And let's start in the AFC East. I spoiled it. I'm going New York Jets to win the division. I really like Buffalo still. I really do. A lot of question marks on Buffalo's defense. They funneled so much of the defensive communication through that safety duo since 2017. And when they weren't able to do that, those responsibilities would often fall on Matt Milano, who might miss the entire season at linebacker. So just kind of the spine of that defense is really questionable. I like the defensive front a lot. They did bring back Daquan Jones. We saw how that run defense really fell off a cliff once he went down last season. Brought him back. Ed Oliver probably still ascending. If Greg Rousseau can take another step forward, he's shown some really good flashes. AJ Epineza is back on an extension. He's been a good rotational guy. If you get some more juice out of Von Miller, could be a really good group. I just think that the secondary is going to be in pretty rough shape. And just from like a a defensive communication standpoint, I think they're going to have a tough time, you know, kind of getting everybody set up, getting everybody where they need to be at certain times, just when the game's really moving around and you don't have those vets to lean on. Because they were able to do so much crazy shit out of two high structures with those safeties, and now you go from probably the best safety duo in the league for an extended period of time to your best safeties Taylor Rapp, and you're doing what you can to kind of piece it together. But I still like the Bills. I still like Miami. I just, like I said, there are just not many holes with the Jets right now. They went out and got some tackle depth. You've got Tyron Smith, who can be a bit of a time bomb. You're hoping to get, you're probably getting like 13 really good games out of Tyron Smith, and he might miss a couple. But I think with the stable of running backs, it's rough after Garrett Wilson at receiver, but with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, if those guys stay healthy, then it's going to be a caveat for a lot of teams. But specifically this team, if they stay healthy, you've got one of the best corners in football, a guy in Quinnen Williams who might be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation for the next several. His brother Quincy is one of the best thumpers in the league. C.J. Mosley is just a walking brain out there at this point in his career and still has some juice. There's just not a lot to dislike about the group, and it was such a good defense last year. They bring back just about everybody. Saleh calling the shots, and it's make or break for Robert Saleh, in my opinion. If they don't make serious noise, I think they might be regretting not going after Mike Vrabel in the offseason. And they might have a change of guard there. How are you feeling about that AFC East? There's kind of three teams in the mix. I should say, maybe should have said this in the news portion, but Jacoby Brissett has been named the Week 1 starter for the Patriots. I assume they're not really in your conversation, but how do you feel about like that group of three at the top of the AFC East?
Yeah, I love that we don't have to spend any time talking about the Patriots. Spent far too much of my life talking about the New England Patriots. We can throw them right out right away. I like Miami to win games in the regular season. We've talked about this before on this program and on the Simon Short podcast with Simon before, where they're going to put up numbers. They have that offense. They're going to win probably at least 9 games, you would think. But I don't think they're good enough to win really close, important games against good teams. I think the closer we get to the playoffs, the Dolphins are going to tighten up and fall short once again. I wish you had picked on me to go first, honestly, John, because you have almost talked me out of my selection. But Jeff came back. Jeff brought me right back with the reminder along the lines of what I was going to say here. I like everything you said about the Jets. I love that defense. Like you said, they almost were 500 with you and I at quarterback. That's the problem with this team, I believe, is this all hinges on the legs and tendons and joints of a very old man who we haven't seen play good football in quite some time at this point. And I don't know if he'll be able to stay on the field, whether he gets banged up a lot or not, right? His last major injury was from him rolling out, right? Just Achilles just snapped up his leg. So if there's no Aaron Rodgers, will this team have what it takes offensively to go ahead and win that extra 1 or 2 games to dethrone or to, in my position, I guess, dethrone the Bills? Because I'm going with the Bills. Maybe it's just bias and the fact that all of their recent success is still kind of overshadowing, giving a little rose-colored glasses on my end. Maybe it's the fact that Jordan Poyer anchored my IDP league defense for about as many years as he anchored the Bills defense, and I just can't let him go yet. But give me the Bills by a tight margin. But if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and plays like the Aaron Rodgers we've seen before, I'll be willing to admit that I was wrong, just like I was wrong about the Colts' first overall pick in this year's draft. Latu, I'm very sorry. I'm an idiot. Okay, very dumb, very stupid person here.
No, I like the Bills though. I don't think their offense is going to miss a beat, even with the departures of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. I think Keon Coleman's going to be just fine. Curtis Samuel's going to be a really interesting gadget piece for them. And I think, I'm sorry, and I think James Cook takes a big step forward as well, and Josh Allen is that dude.
Josh Allen might get to take a step forward too. Just imagine what he'll be able to accomplish when his only goal is to hit whoever is open. It doesn't have to be, oh, how many passes since I threw to Diggs? Oh, probably can't chuck this into Kincaid. Steph might get mad. So who knows? It may. I can't rule out addition by subtraction. Obviously, a supremely talented receiver who's had one hell of a career, but there with some of those other talented individuals having a chance to step up, and Josh Allen just being able to do what he does and not have to worry about any of that. Maybe it'll unlock something else for him.
Yeah, I agree. And the Dolphins are a bit of a wild card for me. No pun intended. I think they might, find a way to sneak in there. The offense is obviously still dynamite. Might see a step back from the defense. Christian Wilkins is a huge loss. But I like a lot of the other pieces. The secondary is in a really good spot, at least at the top of that depth chart. Pretty questionable depth, but really like David Long at linebacker. Still some really good pieces. I like the edge guys if they're able to stay healthy, and Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. So should be a really strong team as well. It's going to be a fun division to see, how this plays out. Like these, what'll it be? But between the three of them, those 6 head-to-heads are going to be really fun to watch. So I've got Jets, you've got Bills. Let's go to your division, the AFC South. And I'll let you go first. Are you going to do it?
If we must talk about the AFC South,
let us know in the comments too what you think about this division.
Yeah, please. I would love to hear from all of you, because I cannot be the homer here. I would love to do it. I would love to say bet on blue, baby. That's not a thing. But the Colts are going to win this division. But in all honesty, I am still going to stick with the chalk on this one. I think the safe money is that the Texans would win this division. They are, you talk about a team without a lot of holes, or a team that has addressed a lot of those holes. They go out, get Joe Mixon, not a world beater by any means, but certainly an improvement over Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce. No disrespect. Added Stephon Diggs, which to me might be the most questionable / potentially negative addition of everything that they did. Adding Danielle Hunter to that defense, I think they're going to have a really good approach on both sides of the ball. The only thing that worries me for the Texans and gives me hope as a Colts fan is a potential sophomore slump, not in a sense that Stroud will regress, but in a sense that all of these NFL coaches will have had a year of tape on him and may throw some new things in his direction. And then again, maybe Stephon Diggs might just ruin the whole thing for everybody, and Nico Collins and Tank Dell will have to be fighting over table scraps, and maybe Stroud will be crying in the blue tent after every drive just because he's hiding from Diggs. I have no idea. Maybe, just maybe, they'll be the Harlem Globetrotters of football, the greatest show on turf, out there looking like Kurt Warner and Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, with Joe Mixon doing his best Marshall Faulk impression. I don't think it's going to be any of that. I think it's an incredibly easy division to win. I think my Colts and the Titans will flirt with 500. It rests entirely on the health of Anthony Richardson and the play of a very questionable defensive backfield when it comes to the Colts, and a little bit of a hit they took to the depth in their defensive line has me worried that what was going to be their biggest strength is now just a regular strength. Right now, they no longer have that depth. The Colts coming into this year before some injuries looked like they could have been a team that could get to the that could get to the quarterback every down, fresh pass rushers, quick rotations. Injuries may have torn into that, but luckily, Latu will hopefully be ready to go.
Yeah, I love Latu. I also am like a big Dio Ingbo guy. And then yeah, that's electric. And then Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner. I don't think those two guys get enough love
Yeah.
kind of league wide. And then like this offense could really, really cause some problems for some teams. Like whether they go heavy or light personnel, like if they spread you out and go 4 wide and leave the box light, and you've maybe got some Anthony Richardson, JT Reed option when both of those guys are healthy, that could be really dangerous. I like the group of wide receivers, but I'm going to go with the Texans as well. Mainly because I really like the Colts this year, honestly, coming into it, but mainly because I think that secondary might hold them back. There aren't any glaring holes as far as any position groups go on the Texans. Like Derek Stingley might be well on his way to like a top 10 cornerback type of echelon. I think Jalen Petry's a maniac at safety, and then Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter on the edges there are going to be really, really interesting because D'Amico loves to try and get pressure with 4 when he can, and he'll be able to do that more consistently this year.
Yeah.
And Daniil Hunter is also a motherfucker in the run game. And despite some like questionable personnel, D'Amico was able to field like a really, really strong run defense last year with like, good defensive linemen, Sheldon Rankins and players like that. But, no like big time guys up there who you just feel like are going to, from a personnel standpoint, really buoy your run defense. I think schematically they did a great job last year. So, and then also like with the Diggs thing, it could be like, oh, our team's kind of good now. Let's trade for Kevin Durant. And it could have a slightly negative effect, but like, even if you get like an injury in the wide receiver room, you got John Mechie and Robert Woods as your wide receiver 4 and 5. Like it's just such a deep group.
I forgot about Robert Woods. Yeah, that's
He's
a
still there.
nice relic.
Bobby Trees.
Can't wait
Bobby
for
Trees.
Robert Woods to ruin someone's week 11. Are you 2 touchdown? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Robert who?
Yeah, exactly.
What year is it?
I just think there are too few holes on that roster, and CJ Stroud is incredible. He's so good. And I think he's just going to have access to a lot of easier throws than he did last season. Like some of the throws he was making to Nico Collins, like before he even came out of his break, having to navigate the pocket the way he had to last year and really, really throwing into some tight windows. With all the talent they'll have spread around this year, might have a few more gimmies in that offense for CJ as well to kind of get him in rhythm. So I really, really like the Texans there, but I agree with you as well. I think I might be lowest on the Jags in this division.
That's
and
right.
They were like chalk to win it at the beginning of last year. So the turntables.
No Jags fate for the Texans this year. I'm not buying it.
No.
The AFC South does have a first to worst thing that happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they also almost never have repeat champions. But I think both trends will be bucked this year, pun intended. Unfortunately, won't be by my boys, but we're going to be damn close. I tell you what, Anthony Richardson beat the Texans by himself in 1/2 last year. So,
Yes.
He could be done. And that was strictly running the football. So you just never know.
Yeah. This one might be the quickest, but let's do the AFC West.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going Chiefs. I'm going Chiefs to win the division. Kind of putting my neck out there. But yeah, it's going to be the Chiefs. What might be a more interesting, breaking news. Might be a more interesting conversation is real quick, like, because I think the Chiefs are going to be fine. They reloaded pretty well at receiver. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy are going to add an element they didn't even have last season. Another year from Pacheco, who's fine. Like, he's good. He's not a great running back, but a competent one. They still have the best interior 3 offensive linemen in the game, in my opinion. And if the tackles can be competent, I think it's going to be another really, really dangerous offense. And they have the luxury of all luxuries in an all-world defensive coordinator with zero head coaching aspirations. It's another Spags unit, and I think he's going to get those guys right. They'll probably have a sixth-round corner who is playing all-pro football by the end of the season alongside Trent McDuffie. So that's usually what tends to happen. The safeties have been good. Brian Cook and Justin Reed's been awesome in this defense. They have like 4 or 5 linebackers they feel good about that they can move all over the place. So I think that's an easy one. I like the Chargers outside of them. I think the Broncos are going to be a dumpster fire. Raiders could be a little interesting though. How do you feel about Vegas coming into this one? At least kind of compared to last year, they made some interesting moves.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. It's going to be Kansas City. So I like this idea of maybe focusing on a couple of the second place teams. When it comes to Las Vegas, still so hard for me not to say the Oakland Raiders. I am looking at this through whatever the opposite of rose tinted glasses are, because I am Gardner Minshew's jilted ex, the one who's like that dude ain't about shit. Like, he's a bum. Get out of here. I can't even remember any of the good memories, right? I just got nothing but vitriol for this person. And it wasn't even his fault. It's just a me thing. He was exactly who he said he would be, and it just wasn't right for me. Okay.
We let him off the hook.
Too many times did I see a wide open Alec Pierce doing his best wacky, wailing, inflatable, arm flailing tube man impression, because Gardner Minshew, happy feet himself, either couldn't see over the line or just had no intention of looking further than 8 yards down the field. So with all that in mind, I think this is a team. He's a perfectly serviceable backup. I think Gardner Minshew, much like the aforementioned Jacoby Brissett, elite backup. If he's the kind of guy you pay a few $1 million to have around in case something bad happens. Almost got to the Colts to the playoffs last year. If a third string running back hadn't dropped a gimme of a pass on a 4th down, the Colts probably would have been in the playoffs, even with Gardner Minshew. So it's not like he can't keep you in some games. The thing with him, he's going to lose you as many games as he wins for you. You're just going to kind of have to live with some of the madness. And I don't think the Raiders have enough around them to completely make up for that. I do think they're going to be an interesting unit on offense. I like White, the running back. I think he's going to have a pretty good showing this year. But I'm higher on the Chargers. And maybe I am in a cult. Maybe I am just drinking some of the Jim Harbaugh Kool-Aid and
join us,
projecting some of his previous successes and my own beliefs on the skill level of Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey, who I hammered in the late rounds of any draft. If I can get future number 1 receiver for this team in the 10th round, I'm doing it, dog. You can't stop me.
I got him.
Yeah. So I think the Chargers are going to surprise a lot of folks, and they would not surprise me if they were second in the division when it was all said and done. I think the Chargers and the Raiders could both flirt with 500 this year, but I don't think either of them is a serious playoff contender. Hopefully they play each other in some like wacky overtime game to decide who gets to go. And then Max Crosby can get 3 more sacks for my IDP team. But, so I can't be too selfish here.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think it's the Chargers comfortably in that group of 3. Gardner's so funny because he's one of those guys like, hey, you need 11 yards, I'll get you 12. You need 3 yards, I'll get you negative 30. Like he just
3rd and 8, I'll throw the check down.
if things go right on a given rep, like he doesn't really know what to do. But if he gets into like that backyard football shit, then all of a sudden you're like, this guy might have something.
Yeah, he's like what Johnny Manziel should have been. Sorry.
Yeah. Just an aura god, not needing to be the main man. AFC North is going to be an interesting division, I think. Probably could go a lot of different ways depending on who you talk to. But who do you have in that division? Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers.
I think maybe the toughest one to pick, but if you are playing that game that we played back on Simon's podcast, where you're trying to decide who won't make the playoffs, because every year about 50% of last year's playoff teams do not return. Your money says bet here. Okay, 3 of these teams, right? Were all 3 in the playoffs last year?
Browns, Steelers, Ravens. Yeah.
Yep, everybody but the Bengals. So math dictates that not all 3 of them will be back. So for my money, it's Ravens and then everybody else. I still think it's going to be a team that might have, or a division, forgive me, that might have 2 playoff teams. But unless the Ravens, knock on wood, because this is a very real possibility with this poor, cursed football team, unless their first 4 running backs get hurt, which has happened to them before, unless half their defense gets hurt, which has happened to them before, I think it's their division to lose. I don't think anybody comes close to putting the talent on the field that the Ravens have, which is wild because going into last year, people would have told you it's a down year for the Ravens defense. That Ravens defense isn't what it was. Kyle Hamilton and a few others have some pretty impactful seasons, and now we're talking about this as potentially being a top 5 defense again this year. If Derrick Henry stays healthy, Lamar Jackson may not need to worry about the fact that his 2 best receivers are his tight ends. It might not matter. So give me the Ravens. If I have to pick a second best team, right now, I would say the Browns. But if the Bengals get everything squared away with Chase and Joe Burrow stays healthy, I would trust that team. I have no faith in Deshaun Watson. And I just think the Browns without Chubb, I don't know if they'll be able to run their way to a division win.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I didn't expect myself to feel this way necessarily coming into this division, but I'm Ravens and then everybody else as well. I love to, when I can, spread Steelers propaganda. And I think their defense is going to be really solid. But their last 8 games are their 6 division games, and then the Chiefs and the Eagles. That's their last 8. And I mean, if you get to that spot, like, they're going to have to really kind of gain some ground early in the season. And they do win a lot of games they're not supposed to. They've sort of always done that, really, since the end of the Roethlisberger era, when they kind of became that underdog again all of a sudden and then kept going 9-8. So they might win a couple of those games, steal a few Steelers. But yeah, I'm the same way. I think the Browns roster overall is better than that of Cincinnati. But the ceiling's just higher with Cincy. Like you said, if Burrow, Higgins, Chase really click, they can put up some fireworks, and I don't think that the Browns will be able to contend with that, if the Bengals do really hit their stride. But I don't have any other teams in this division making the playoffs going through this exercise. Another spoiler. But the Ravens, suddenly Mike McDonald's gone, defensive coordinator, but yeah, suddenly you've got Kyle Hamilton and Justin Madubuike who are looking like blue chip players. You got one of the best center field safeties in the league in Marcus Williams. Marlon Humphrey, more good than bad. He has some low lows, but is a really, really strong corner. And I really like what I've seen from Nate Wiggins throughout the preseason, corner out of Clemson. I think he looks really, really promising. Derrick Henry added to the offense. I would take a bullet for Zay Flowers. And I think it's just a really compelling team. So I'm going Ravens as well. We'll try and speed a little bit through some of these NFC divisions just so we can get to the Super Bowl matchup. And some of these might even be a little bit easier. Let's start in the NFC East, just like we did with the AFC. This is a 2-team race to me. Who do you have coming out on top?
NFC East, it's got to be Eagles, then Cowboys for me currently. don't know that there's the Commanders could be a fun team to watch with the young rookie quarterback. Could be somebody that there'll be a few games during red zone where you do end up surprising, like, oh wow, a few more Commanders highlights this week than usual. I think for the most part they can be skipped. And the Giants, I'm sorry to do it, Keebler, but they seem like a dumpster fire. I got to see Daniel Jones do anything productive before I'm willing to have any faith in the Giants. So give me the Eagles, because the Cowboys are as talented as they are dysfunctional. They can never just have one quiet off season without their idiot owner stirring things up that don't need to be stirred. And on the other hand, you have the most annoying high school football coach that somehow turned into an NFL head coach of all time, Nick Sirianni, a guy who I think is an absolute bum and a loser, but great talent around him, and he's got some good coaches. So, yeah, give me the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going Eagles as well. I'm not necessarily down on the Cowboys as much as I am back up on the Eagles. 36 wins over the last 3 seasons for Dallas. And a very similar roster coming back. So it's tough to be like, oh, they're going to be bad. And I think going from Dan Quinn to Mike Zimmer on the defensive side of the ball is going to add a lot of really cool wrinkles to the talent they have there. I think the way he's going to deploy Micah Parsons will be really interesting. Brought the band back together a little bit. He's got Eric Kendricks and Linval Joseph over there from the Vikings days. If they have anything left in the tank, that's incredible.
Dude, yeah, Eric Kendricks, it's amazing he's still in. He's in Bobby Wagner status.
100%. And the corners are great. The run game is going to be a big question mark for me. Rico Dowdle and Zeke. Dak, not much of a runner anymore, but Dak is
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
talking about 4-time Pro Bowler Dalvin Cook.
Oh yeah, he's
will start for 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah, he was so washed 2 years ago, but we'll see what happens there. But Dak is such an elite processor. I think they win double-digit games either way. I'm just back up on the Eagles. I think, the weaponry around Jalen Hurts is great. Saquon, Jahan Dotson replace guys like DeAndre Swift and Quez Watkins. On that depth chart, I think those are huge upgrades. Losing Jason Kelce hurts, but Cam Jurgens was kind of his understudy for a couple of seasons already. He'll slide into that center role. Really mobile as well. They've got, these huge tackles. Even if Lane Johnson misses time, I think they're probably pretty in on Mekhi Becton, taking some snaps at right tackle. And then you think about Kellen Moore coming over as OC. I think he'll be able to kind of solve some of the struggles they had late in the season. Jalen Hurts was one of the worst quarterbacks against pressure, particularly down the stretch. When they sent zero blitz, he really, really struggled. And they didn't have hot answers built into the offense. Brian Johnson was just the quarterback's coach and just kind of, they kept it in the family when Steichen moved on. Now they outsource the offensive play calling duties, go with Kellen Moore. I think he'll provide Jalen Hurts with some hot answers when there are free rushers instead of, slot fade and pray kind of mentality.
Yeah. And he'll improve their horrible play calling too, as well, with a lead. I think that was another big issue they had. How many leads did they just piss down their own leg because they're just calling QB power? They have nothing. They don't trust their anything in their playbook at that point. They didn't have Barkley to turn to, and so it's just how many yards can Jalen Hurts run until this other team catches up to us. So yeah, I do think Kellen Moore will help a little bit, but
he should. He should. There were some lowlights last year with it, and they should be able to get to a little bit more power running game with Saquon in there too. So that should be a really interesting team. Let's go to the NFC South. This might be a shorter conversation as well, at least for me. I think it's pretty cut and dry, but who do you think comes out of this division?
Carolina Panthers. Lock it in. Put all your money down. No, the NFC South, to me, I think it's going to be the Falcons. I think that's a highly improved team. I am not sold on Penix, so our Penix, I would have to say that this solely does kind of ride on the health of old Kirk Cousins. but this team went out and solved a lot of their problems, and they have an offense that I think could be a lot of fun. And if there was ever going to be Kyle Pitts' year, it would have to be this year, wouldn't it? Like
Nope.
if he doesn't get acclimated in a situation with all these other weapons out on the field and a veteran quarterback who should know when to find him based on the coverage and the play called, then I think they're going to be a pretty solid offense. I think it's an underrated defense too, fantasy wise. This was I'm a kickers and defense very last 2 rounds kind of guy, and so I found myself swiping the Falcons several times in fantasy. Because of the easy schedule they're going to have for all of their division games should be fairly easy. But B, they addressed a couple of things. They do have some talent back there in the defensive backfield. So I give me the Falcons, John.
Yeah, it's a defense that was actually second in DVOA against the run last season. You lose, and their 2 top pressure getters are gone, and Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree. I really worry about the pass rush, to be honest. But you bring in Matt Judon, hopefully a healthy season from Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata in there with him in the middle. I really love AJ Terrell. And now suddenly you've got such a strong safety duo. Couple of mercenary safeties. Jesse Bates, an argument for the best one in the league at this point, especially in certain regards. And we'll see what else they can get out of Justin Simmons. But yeah, I think the offense really hums. You take Kirk Cousins from a McVay descendant in Kevin O'Connell and plug him into an offense that's now going to be called by Zach Robinson, who was the pass game coordinator for the Rams last season under McVay. So that transition should be pretty smooth outside of a few wrinkles to iron out. He's said in camp that it's actually very different. Of course, it's very different, but I think a lot of the principles should be the same. And yeah, the Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson should actually be weaponized in this offense. And I think that's going to make a world of difference with a guy who can get the ball where it needs to go. So I think Falcons by a landslide somehow got through that without mentioning or without gushing over their offensive line as well. So good team. I think they'll be fine. They might win the division by like 4 games at 9-8. So let's go NFC West. Niners, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals. Could be a really competitive division. But who do you think comes out on top? Is it Niners back at it, or do you think some of these other teams make a push?
I do think you hit it in your intro there, John. I think this is a very tough division. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people might think it will be going in. I think a lot of people will look at this and just say slam Niners. And I'm not necessarily saying that the Niners won't win the division, but I think Seattle is going to have a decent squad. Most of their, if not all of their important offensive players have returned. We've got an Arizona team that I think without a doubt will be vastly improved upon last year just by having Kyler Murray healthy and with Marvin Harrison Jr. to throw to. What is it? Is it Benson, the running back that everybody tells me is going to take John Connor's job by week 8? So when that happens,
James Conner.
James Conner. Yeah, I do that every time. Come with me if you want to win.
Running back Sarah Connor. Going to have a great year.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah. So James Conner, but to say all of that, the Rams also have enough there. I'm a big Kyron Williams fan, as a Notre Dame fan, of course. If Stafford stays healthy and is in the top half of the league in quarterbacks again this year with Puka, with Cooper, maybe the Rams are in the mix again for a playoff run. But for me, until or unless I see a difference in the trends, or it'd honestly be hard for me to see a number of injuries that would make me out on the Niners, because they're another team that's always got half their running back room injured, half of their starting defense is injured. 2 of their best defensive players now, I think, are still out. So maybe if you want to make the argument, there it is. I just kind of gave you your out, but I believe the Niners are still the favorite. I won't be holding my jaw off the floor if one of these other teams sneaks in and steals it from them, because I think this might be one of the tightest divisions this year.
Yeah, and I think it will. I really want to lean into the Rams because I love what they have going on. A lot of questions on the defense. No Aaron Donald, of course. A lot of young guys who could take a step forward, but at corner you've got Darius Williams and Kobe Durant. On the other side of 30, I think Darius Williams is. Haven't seen anything crazy from Kobe Durant yet. And they've also got some O-line injuries that are already starting to crop up. Alaric Jackson, left tackle, Rob Havenstein, right tackle, Jonah Jackson at guard has had some injuries already. Stafford's so good, though. And I think Kyron Williams is going to have another great year. Blake Corum does a lot of the same things that Kyron does. Even if he were to go down, I think they'll handle it better. So I really like the Rams. I'm going to go with the Seahawks to win the division.
Nice.
I think they're going to be back. I think because they both had injuries last year. If you get Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross healthy at the tackle spots, and you buy Geno a little bit of time, he can really, really put the ball where it needs to go. If you get a step forward from JSN, suddenly it's a really, really interesting group of pass catchers because he can kind of supplement the things that are redundancies with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. He can do sort of that horizontal stretching of the field, kind of get you 9.5 yards when you need 9 on, little routes over the middle and kind of be that first down merchant of the offense and let those guys stretch the field. I think Kenneth Walker is going to be awesome. And Mike McDonald is now going to be calling this defense that does have a lot of really interesting pieces, particularly in the secondary. So they turned over the safety room. Should be a big step from Devin Witherspoon, maybe a bounce back here from Tariq Woolen. I think if they're able to stay healthy in those facets that really derailed them last year, I think they might be able to take advantage of what might be kind of an early season slump from San Fran with no Hufanga, no Dre Greenlaw. Trent's back, Ayuk's back, the vibes are back up, but the empire might fall in the NFC West this season. I still think the Niners make the playoffs pretty comfortably, and if it's a Seahawks win, they might win on a tiebreaker with division record or something like that. But just because I think in my head they're so close, I'm going to go with the Seahawks just to kind of mix things up at least a little bit because I think they'll be right there with them.
I love it.
And the Cardinals should be better. Kyler's back. People forgot about Kyler. I'm one of those people. I think he's going to be great. Great chemistry with guys like Trey McBride and Greg Dortch and Marvin Harrison should be incredible year one. So we'll see what happens there. But this division, top to bottom, probably the most competitive in the league. Up there with like the AFC North, in my opinion. The NFC North is going to be really interesting as well, but I think there's a bit wider gap between, in my opinion, what are the top 2 teams and the bottom 2, at least right this second, if the most likely outcome takes place. That leads me into the NFC North, my division.
Boom, boom.
And I'm so tempted to go with the Packers. I really am. Just because, so the Lions have been very annoying. I do like what they're doing from like a roster construction standpoint, but they do have some question marks. They brought in a lot of pieces in the secondary. That was one of the glaring needs last year. Just didn't get enough out of Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, and the like. But bring over Carlton Davis, draft a guy like Ennis Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold. If those guys hit, suddenly this is a really scary unit. The second level of the defense, a little questionable. Jack Campbell, we'll see what happens there. But I really like the front all of a sudden. Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader have fun trying to run the football. Aiden Hutchinson is elite. Secondary pass rusher might be a question mark, but they got the whole coaching staff back. And it's just tough for me to to go against that. I think the Packers will give them hell at certain stages, just because I think you'll finally see that defense kind of come back to competent. Jeff Hafley coming over from Boston College to coach the defense, relieving, I should say, relieving the Packers of Joe Barry instead of relieving Joe Barry of his position. I think the defense takes a step forward. All the talent's still there. I think Lucas Van Ness is awesome. Kenny Clark's one of my favorite players in the league. Rashawn Gary, that front's awesome. Some playmakers on the back end. So, and their offensive line is so interesting. The way they draft and develop offensive line, they're able to withstand injuries like very few teams can. And they're able to just kind of get their best five out there in whatever way possible. I think the offense really should be humming. Jordan Love, I believe the last half of the season, there's a lot of people who want to see more and blah, 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 but the kind of shit he was pulling off in those last 8-9 games, it's just, those just aren't happy accidents. This is a guy who is so dialed and has the ability that maybe 4 or 5 other quarterbacks have to make these off-platform, goofy arm angle throws and just get the ball there. So I think everything we saw was real. Josh Jacobs comes in to replace Aaron Jones. Like, I don't think they miss a beat on offense and pick up right back where they left off late in the season. But I'm going to go with the Lions by a hair. I think that race is going to be really interesting. Are you going chalk, or did I convince you a little bit?
Well, I'm glad. It's interesting. Yeah, I will do what you weren't able to do, John, because I was already almost there, and then you have convinced me. You've pushed me past the threshold, because I don't think that this offense will not only not miss a beat, I think they will be better, because not only will you have Josh Jacobs in the mix, health will be a concern, but with all due respect to Aaron Jones, who's been one of my favorite multifaceted backs in the league, one of those guys who can do a little bit of everything. But Josh Jacobs is just better for my money. I think Josh Jacobs is better running the ball, better at catching passes. I'm not sure who the better pass blocker is, but for my money, I would want Josh Jacobs. And not only does Jordan Love have another offseason under his belt, more coaching, getting into a rhythm, but he's had more time with these 3 very talented receivers. We've got Reed, we've got Watson, we've got Dobbs, however the hell you say Romeo's last name, who is the one who gets talked about by the least, by the way, Dobbs, but that he seems to be the guy Jordan Love wants to talk about the most. So if you're looking for a late round flyer, a guy who's currently listed as a 2 or a 3, who may end up being the number 1 receiver, or may just get number 1 receiver type, low wide receiver 1, fantasy wise, wide receiver 2 kind of status, it could very well be Dobbs, because Love loves this dude. Christian Watson's going to give you a headache. I'd avoid him at all costs. He's either going to catch 3 passes with 2 of them being for touchdowns, or he's going to catch 3 passes for 12 yards. And whatever week you don't start him, that'll be the 2 touchdown week. So good luck to all the Watson owners out there. But this offense, I do think will take a step to the next level, but also, and I hate to do it, I hate to say it, but much in line with what I said about the Jets, it's the Lions, man. So I have a hard time believing that curse won't kick in here soon and get everything back aligned in the universe here. The Lions being good for an extended run just feels too good to be true. I still think they'll be good, but division winner on top of things, I don't know. Give me the Packers this year.
Yeah, I like it. Dontavion Wicks, too, at wide receiver, who has a cult following. And I might grab a glass of Kool-Aid as well on him. He's pretty cool. That's all the division winners. We got them. Okay. So
lock it in.
I've got Ravens, Texans, Chiefs, Jets in the AFC. And then I've got Lions, Seahawks, Falcons, Eagles. For me, wild card teams, we'll rip through this one. I'm going Dolphins, Bills, Chargers in the AFC. No wild cards out of the North. No wild cards out of the South. I think, and I was so close to going either Colts or Titans over the Chargers. But I went Chargers. I'm just going Harbaugh effect. I'm going Greg Roman effect, who's going to be their OC, comes over from Baltimore, knows how to work with a Harbaugh, knows how to establish a run game, knows how to work with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. And suddenly you've got a stronger offensive line. A tackle duo of Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater is badass. And I think they'll be able to do just enough on the defensive side of the ball where the talent's really sporadic. They've got some good players, but a lot of holes. But I think they'll be able to do just enough, and I think they'll be able to control the time of possession battle enough to get 9 or 10 wins. Like every the first year of every Harbaugh stop, whether it be Stanford, San Fran, Michigan, he just wins immediately. He gets double-digit wins immediately wherever he lands. So I'm going to ride with that one. I think the other two are we talked about a lot, Bills and Dolphins already. I just like them better than the Bengals, for example, who I think might have the worst run defense in the NFL this season, or one of them. Just a glaring hole that's going to be a lot uglier in December, you know, when it really comes down to brass tacks and you've got to win at the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to have a lot of difficulty doing so with the departure of DJ Reader, and the not having real thumpers at the second level between Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson, who are great coverage guys, but I think they'll struggle in that department. And yeah, I almost got there with the Colts, and I really like the Titans this year. Don't tell anybody. But I'm gonna go there. Where are you at with AFC wildcard teams? You had Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, Texans.
And I am going to stick with you in the East as far as I'm going to have the Jets get in there. I'm going to have the Jets be a wild card team. And I am going to, you know what? I'm actually going to put, I'm going to have a 3-team division in there because I was waffling between the Browns and the Bengals, and I've just decided neither of them get in. It's going to be Jets, Dolphins, and my beloved Indianapolis Colts. Now, this is all pending the health of one number 5, Anthony Richardson, and one number 28, Jonathan Taylor, because in case you aren't on Twitter and didn't see everybody overreact to an announcement that Leonard Fournette was working out with the Colts, as if he'd be anything other than Jonathan Taylor's backup, guys. Come on, please. But pending those injuries, that's the one thing. They have finally addressed other areas of depth like wide receiver and tight end where they are very deep in both rooms now. But unlike the Cleveland Browns, I don't think this Colts team is going to the playoffs with Joe Flacco starting anything more than a game or two. So if Anthony Richardson is healthy, give me the Colts to steal a wild card spot. Other teams that I think are in the mix, I already mentioned, Browns, Bengals, Titans, and the Chargers. I really do think the Chargers are going to flirt for a wild card.
Yeah. The bottom of the AFC is going to be really interesting this year. I think there's like last year, it seemed like there were so many powerhouses in the conference. It's a little bit less so this year. Once you kind of have seen the cracks in the armor of like teams like the Bengals, like the Chargers. Frankly, I think coming into this past season, they seemed to have had less holes and felt like they were on the up. But yeah, I agree with everything there. In the NFC, I'm going to go Packers. I'm going to go Cowboys, and I'm going to go Niners as the wild card teams because I had the Seahawks and the Eagles taking those divisions as well as the Lions. But I think those are pretty easy for me to pick, frankly. I could very well see the Rams getting in if everything breaks right for them. No other teams I like in the NFC South. Bears are probably a year away. Vikings probably a year away. Um, and I couldn't really get there with any other teams. I think Washington, New York, Carolina, New Orleans, and there might be 5 of the worst 6 teams in the NFL might be in the NFC this year. So,
It's going to be a
what
little
do you got
more
for?
top
Yeah.
heavy. I agree with you. I also have the Cowboys going in the wild card. I have the Lions going in because we're basically just flipping our division winners. I think otherwise we pick the NFC the exact same because I have the Lions and the Seahawks as my 2 wild card teams. Again, like John just mentioned, Rams are right up there for me. And I think that's really it. I do not have the same faith in the Bears that some other folks have. Not that they don't have the potential to be good, but I do not think they're making a splash this year. I think this Bears team is a 4-win team that just looks really good every once in a while. Where you have some offensive players, you're like, holy shit, Caleb Williams can do that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't think this team is winning football games because he's going to have a few other plays, just like any other rookie quarterback. We're like, Caleb Williams does that.
Mm-hmm.
What? So
Yeah,
I
his highs, his good flashes are incredible. I think he'll struggle with some consistency early on. I think it's going to be a little ugly in the trenches for Chicago on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I'm not quite there with them yet either. And then a lot of question marks around my Vikings. I think the bones of the roster are pretty decent. If everything breaks right, you could see them maybe sneak in or at least kind of be in the mix until week 16 or 17. Kind of the same with the Rams and Cardinals. I think they'll be competitive
mhm.
up until late. And I could even see the Bears getting close to 500. I just think there's some significant flaws in a lot of these teams that I don't really see in the top 7. Um, I don't even know if I want to do a Super Bowl one yet.
Ooh, hey,
I don't even know. I have no fucking idea. I have no pick for it.
yeah, you're
I
just throwing a dart at a board at that point.
100%. Like
Amongst
all of
14
these
teams.
teams, I think are, and I don't want to pick the Chiefs because that might seem like the safest or like most likely one. Um, but I don't think I can get there. I don't think I'm gonna fake it for you guys. I don't have a Super Bowl pick. It might be easier to do
Mm,
like conference championships or something, but all
I
right,
think
I'll
you,
do. I'll
yeah.
do. Give me Texans.
Ooh,
Give me Texans. Fucking Texans Eagles.
ooh, okay. I will go with the Bird Bowl, baby. Ravens, Eagles.
Cool. Okay, Eagles coming out. I see. Yeah, I think they're back up. They're a team that if everything breaks right, they're going to be terrifying.
As
I
much as
think.
Nick Sirianni like annoys like every fiber of my being, there is something to be said about the way those players want to play for him. Again, I don't think they make good decisions at times, whether it be the players or the coaching staff. We already addressed some of those issues, but yeah, um, I think they are good enough to get there for sure if they're well coached and get some better play calling down the stretch.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's where we can wrap it. Thanks
Woo.
everybody for tuning in the chat. Um,
Appreciate you guys.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Ken, Only Mistakes, Lee, Nate. Thanks for tapping in, everybody. Um, leave a comment down below with your Super Bowl pick, either now or when we end the stream. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how wrong we are in your gracious opinions. And stick around on Bite Size Sports. We've got a ton of action coming at you. We've got another damn fantasy podcast tomorrow night on the channel here with Josh Limasand and Trevor Steinbacher. Thursday, Supersize Sports with the man to my left and James as well, talking all things in the wild world of sports, all kinds of news, and always a fun conversation, just kind of covering everything we don't really get into the nitty-gritty on these sports-specific shows. Kev, in the meantime, where else can they find your work?
Yes, sir. Thank you. That's right. Bite Size Sports. Make sure you're subscribed. We got other non-live shows coming up too. So some video content, whether it be shorts or some pre-recorded stuff coming your way. We're getting real busy just in time for football season. Other than that, you can catch me on our sister station Dweeb, where James and I go live every Monday at 6 p.m. for the weekly Dweeb, where we talk about everything in the world of comic books, TV shows, movies, video games, you name it. We complain about it or glaze it endlessly. There is no in between. There is no reasonable, well thought feedback. It is all either this is the greatest thing ever made, or it's absolute dog shit and I want to light myself on fire. So that's what we do over there. Hopefully that sounds like fun to you. And otherwise, you can come hang out with us on Wednesday nights for Han Shot First, the premier, the one and only Star Wars podcast that you or anyone you know needs to ever bother watching or listening to, with James and myself. And, a quick shout out to all of the Crowders in the audience, all of my homies from the Clout Route. The Clout Route has run its course. It has reached its final destination, it appears. So I appreciate you all so very much that tuned in on Tuesdays and Sundays. More stuff coming. Danny and Kev will return at a later date for another show. And I am working on reviving a long dead project that just may fill an egg-shaped hole in your soul on Tuesday evening. So we're working on it. If you want to stay in the loop about anything I got going on, it is on Twitter at @KevNevick_. And thank you all, as always, for tuning in, John. That's it. Sorry. One day I'll get that in under a minute.
Yes, sir. No, that's all good stuff. And yeah, you'll find me here every week. Maybe a little bit of extra stuff during the season. Maybe a little extra stuff when the Vikings kind of hit me with one of those games that's like stepping on a rake that's laying down. I'm sure you can picture what I'm saying. When the Vikings kick me in the shorts.
I would say we'll see a lot more John content if the Vikings rattle off 7 wins in the first half of the season.
Yeah, but other than that, just go check out zonecoverage.com. I've got some written work up there for about the Vikings. And just wrote a piece about the potential of the new defensive front. A lot of new pieces for Brian Flores to work with, other stuff like that. So go check that out. And otherwise, stay here on the channel. Leave us a like. Leave us a subscribe. Thanks again for tuning in. And we'll see you next week on Necessary Roughness on Bite Size Sports. Thanks, guys.